Hi, I'm Chef Michelle, and today we're going to go over how to make vinegar pearls. Now, generally in our industry, this has been a hot topic for the past few years. It is also known as molecular gastronomy. Now, first things first, before I get into everything else, I'm going to get my vinegar on the stove so it's heating up, because that takes a little bit of time and we don't want to waste any time. So I have 1 cup of vinegar here, and I'm going to put it in my pot, and we're going to get it heated up. I do have red wine vinegar. Generally what most people use is a balsamic vinegar. I'm going to have this on about medium-high heat because I just want that heat to get going, and then we'll turn it down a little bit later. So the pearls, now this is just a fun thing for you guys to do. I'll show you an easy process to do it as well that you can use at home, not the complicated version that we do actually in the kitchen. So all of our prep as chefs, we like to get everything set up ahead of time. Now this will work best for you, and it'll make things a little bit less stressful if you get it ready ahead of time, because this can be a fast process. So you want to make sure that you are set up, ready to go. So right here I have my vinegar measured out, red wine vinegar as well. So all my utensils here. This is a small scale used for our powder. It goes to 0.1 gram or ounce, so you can measure in powder. So you can measure the powder. If you use a regular scale, it doesn't go that small. So for this one, this will be the best scale to use. Then I have some spoons. I like to have extra spoons just in case you have some accidents. This is my gelatin powder. I have an extra bowl to put my product in after when it is finished, my squeeze bottle, my strainer, and a whisk. While this is heating up, I will explain the process and a few different ways that you can do it. So generally, you'll also hear them being called as agar-agar pearls. Today we're going to use gelatin. Agar-agar generally sometimes is not readily available for everyday consumers. So we're going to use gelatin, which I believe most people have in their house. So gelatin here, I have 1 cup, so I already know that's by weight, you're going to need 0.005% of the weight that you are done here. I know that mine is going to be about 250 mils, so I'm going to need 1.25 grams of my gelatin powder. So I'll get that measured out while we're waiting for our liquid to heat up. So make sure that your scale is on the right scaling that you want. Now if you put too much, don't worry, you can always take some off. So if you have a little bit extra than what you need, that's no problem. A little bit extra, that's all that means. It'll just mean that your pearls are just going to be a little bit crunchier and a little bit more stabilized. So what I also did not mention is I have freezer cold oil. Now a vegetable oil, canola oil, or grapeseed oil work best because if you keep it in the freezer, they're not going to freeze. Where if you use olive oil or a different type of oil, it will solidify. So in my freezer, you can put it up there for a couple hours max, that's all you'll need. Or if you're going to put it in your fridge, you can put it in there overnight, that works best, and bring it out once you're actually ready to use it. If you bring it out ahead of time, it'll probably get too warm and the spheres will not form properly. So we're just going to check our vinegar here. So once it comes to a boil, I will add my gelatin powder to it, whisk it, then I need to bring it back up to another boil. So what that does, it actually helps my gelatin bloom and it'll help stabilize. So it's going to right temperature for what I believe right now. What you can do is you can use a thermometer as well. If you're going to use a thermometer, you want to bring it up to about 85 degrees Celsius. So as you can see, my vinegar right now is coming to a boil. So that's good. I'm just going to pull it off the heat. I'm going to add my gelatin to it. And make sure you whisk it in. By whisking it in, all you're doing is just ensuring that all those clumps are not going to be in there. You don't have to strain them out. So I'm going to put it back on the stove, bring it back up to a boil again. And then once it's come to a boil, I need to bring it down to room temperature. Seems a little bit redundant. Why would I heat it up to bring it back down again? But this process is actually going to work for you very well. So I like to stir it every once in a while throughout this process when I bring it back up to a boil, just to ensure that there are no more, that the gelatin hasn't formed or clumped at all. So it's come to a boil. I'm going to turn the heat off. And I'm just going to whisk it off the stove. Just be careful of your eyes. Don't inhale because it is vinegar. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to set it off to the side of the stove where it's nice and cool, and I'm going to bring it down. So again, you want your temperature to be about room temperature, so about 37 degrees. Please don't go any higher than 45 degrees or else it won't work. Okay, so now I'm going to check the temperature of our vinegar. So what I have done here is I've actually put the pot on top of some ice in a bowl. So what that does is just helps bring this process a little bit faster and bring the temperature down. So I have my thermometer here. I'm going to check to see what the temperature is. I'm going to bring this bowl, the pot actually out of the bowl, just so I get a better accurate temperature reading from it. So it's a little bit lower than 37, but that's okay. That just means I have to work a little bit faster than if it was a little bit higher. So I don't have too much give time at all. So I'm just going to mix it together one more time. I'm going to empty out this bowl because I am going to need it a little bit later. So for yourself, you can use a funnel to pour your liquid in here. For myself, I'm not going to, because I've done this quite a few times. Just ever so gently, because your liquid will still be nice and warm to the touch. And then you put the lid on. Then what I'm going to do next is I'm going to grab my oil out of the freezer. So as you can see, it's really nice and cold. So then I'm ever so slowly going to add a little bit of pressure to this, and I'm going to create little dots. And as they go down, what you're going to see is you're going to see the spheres forming. And you want that at that specific temperature, and you want them to go down very slowly. They'll get that perfect round shape, and they'll cool down at a nice pace. So this can take a little bit of time. The smaller the tip of your, or the opening of your squeeze bottle, the better. I'm just going to help this process out, so I'm not getting all the pearls in one spot here. I'm just going to turn my jar. So as you can see, some of them are not perfect. That's what we tell our students. That's what not to do. This is the lesson learned. So a very stable arm and the same pressure on the bottle as well. So again, a syringe might be best for you to use if you don't feel that you have the good arm stability. And what these are going to be is, if you've ever had fish eggs before, this is going to be like that. They're going to pop and add a burst of flavor into your mouth. And because it is straight vinegar, it will be very strong, so you don't need very much at all. I've come to the end of my vinegar in my bottle. Once you start getting the air bubbles, you want to stop at that point, because those pearls are not very useful for you at all whatsoever. So as you can see, these pearls, they're all different shapes and sizes, and that's okay. It just creates different show on the plate. They don't have to be perfect. It does take time. If you're not so stable, I wasn't so stable today, you get a little bit of different shapes, but I don't have any snake looking pearls whatsoever. So what's going to happen here is, just to ensure that all my pearls are nicely stabilized and firm, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to leave it in this oil for a couple minutes, and then I'm going to strain them. As you can see, there's still some sitting on the top, Sometimes you're going to get a few air bubbles in them, and that's fine. That's not a big deal. They will still solidify in this oil, and you can still use them. But sometimes they'll take a little, these pearls might take a little bit longer to go down into the oil, as you can see here. So I have let these sit just for a few minutes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my strainer. Make sure that it's a fine strainer because some of your pearls might be very small and you don't want it to go right through and lose all that hard work that you did. You can keep this oil afterwards and reuse it again. All it might do is just have a little bit of vinegar flavor to it. So these have a nice beautiful red color to it, as you can see. So what I'm going to do is ever so carefully strain the oil from these pearls. Make sure you get all of them out. What you do next is under cold water, and you have to make sure that it's cold water. If it's hot water, all your pearls are actually just going to melt down again, and you don't want that. So what I'm going to do, just to ensure that I have all the excess oil off my pearls, is I'm going to run my water cold, and I'm just going to give them a little rinse. Now all that oil will probably not all come off, but that's okay. You just want the majority of it to come off so that they aren't so oily. You don't have excess oil running on your plate when you present them. So I like to give them a nice feel, and that's good. So what I'll do here is, as you can see in my hand, there's some different shapes and sizes that you can see in all the different pearls. So these ones, they actually do look like fish eggs just because of the color, which is kind of cool. And you can store them up into in your fridge for about 2 weeks, just as long as they're covered. I will post up a written version of this recipe just in case you guys didn't catch it all through the video. Thank you for watching, and these are vinegar pearls.